everyone, this is Nadia, Jake, this is Buddy. Sedona is behind us and Babu is downstairs playing. Today we're going to talk about It Ends With Us, which we just saw in the movie theater. And just a little bit of trigger warning, it does deal with domestic violence, so...
Yeah, we're going to do non-spoilers first and then spoilers, but yeah, this is an interesting... I feel like we were considering watching it last week when it initially came out, but now it seems like it's still in the conversation. People are still talking about it.
And you read the book, and I haven't.
Yeah, so we have unique perspectives here.
Yeah.
I read the book, I read the books, It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us, and you know all about the interviews and cast drama.
I don't know all about the interviews and cast drama. I've seen feed in my phone, my YouTube, about that, and I'm like, it got me really curious. I asked Jake not to spoil things for me in the book, so I wanted to understand what drama was about because I was hearing different things. It kind of reminds me of, what was that film with Harry Styles and
Don't Worry Darling.
Don't Worry Darling. I was like, is this a Don't Worry Darling too? What's going on? So it got my curiosity going, and then we just watched it,
and I read the book because it's the biggest book in the world. It was huge. Colleen Hoover, so much controversy. Book Talk, BookTube. I mean, so I just thought I'd dip my toes in the water, and I did a video on that on the first channel. Yeah, now watching the movie, it had me thinking about it all over again. Kind of like Vietnam War flashbacks going on. But I'm really interested to know what you think of this whole story, this movie. What did you think of the movie?
All right, so in the spoiler section, maybe you can compare it with the book, and then
sure, yeah.
We can just talk about non-spoiler movie. So overall, I thought Justin Baldoni did a phenomenal job directing this film. I know it's supposed to be a close adaptation to the book. I don't know if it is or not. Maybe you can just say yes or no without getting to spoiler. Is it close adaptation to the book?
I want to wait until I talk about my opinions.
All right, fine. But that's what I hear. I really liked him as an actor. I thought Blake Lively did a good job as an actress as well. And for me, it's like there's no perfect victim, obviously, or there's no like certain type of domestic violence relationship. So it's one area of it. However, I do feel like the ending is somewhat unrealistic for a lot of situations. I have to get into spoiler, actually, to talk about that.
Yeah, let's not talk about the ending quite
yet.
But what did you think of the quality of the movie? What did you think of it overall?
I thought it was really well done. I was confused why there's so much conversation about clothing and style after watching this film that deals with a serious topic.
I guess Blake Lively does her own wardrobe, doesn't have a stylist or whatever.
I could see why people are saying it's inappropriate afterwards.
I didn't see anything inappropriate. I was just like...
I don't know the drama, to be honest with you. I haven't seen it. I've just seen like a couple of videos where people are talking about it, and I haven't seen her do any of those things, so I might be completely wrong, but...
There was some kind of a rift between Justin Baldoni and the rest of the cast. So I don't know what's going on either. But yeah, so you liked it.
I liked it. There's a flashback going on about, there are a lot of flashback scenes, and I actually like that to help tell the story a little bit better about what happens, why Blake Lively's character Lily is the way that she is.
Very similar to the book.
The actress who played the younger Lily looks so much like Blake Lively.
I thought they did an AI thing.
I think they de-aged her for a second, and then I was like, no, that's a different person.
Good casting. I don't know. Yeah, that was
really good casting.
Although the guy in the flashbacks looks nothing like the older guy.
No. Yeah.
But I mean, that didn't bother me.
I thought it was interesting how the stories come together, and you kind of don't understand a lot of things in the beginning, but then it kind of starts to make sense. It's a little bit over 2-hour film, and it didn't feel like that for me. I thought the cinematography was great. Now, I would give this an 8 out of 10. Mm-hmm. What would you give it?
I will save the rating.
Oh my God, okay.
I would like to first...
Would you recommend it?
Let me do this my way here. I have a system. I'm ready to discuss this film. All my friends over on Letterboxd or whatever, or the critical reception, etc. I think that they are having big issues with this movie. I think they don't like this movie for a number of reasons, which we can discuss. I think that it's a very unusual movie. I think that the way it's marketed was unusual, and I think that the tone of the movie is different for basically a romance film / romantic comedy in a way. With a love triangle. Okay, even though it's a hugely popular...
What are you trying to say?
It's a hugely popular book series, but online, where all of us exist, It's trashed. People hate it. They think it's a horrible book. There's bad writing in it, admittedly, but I think that overall it's a pretty decent and interesting subversion of the romance genre. A lot of people just think it's tonally weird, which it is, but I think that's a feature and not a bug.
Yeah.
And I actually think that this movie is a really faithful and a very good adaptation of the book. I think they probably did the best possible adaptation they could of the book. They did some changes, especially in terms of the tone. It was a little more like self-aware, like especially the conversations, like this first scene on the roof. Apparently, Blake Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, helped write that scene or rewrote some of that scene. And I could tell because it became very self-aware, like commenting on like, oh, your name is Lily Blossom Bloom? Like, really? You know, and all this stuff. It just had more of like, this material's kind of beneath us. I didn't like that tone. I liked when it just got into the story. And we were in an audience with a pretty good amount of people considering where we live. And
the fact that it's been out for like almost 2 weeks.
You could hear people reacting. You could hear people getting into it. Every moment, every beat, you know, people were getting involved. And I think it's a very effective movie. It definitely got me into the story. What's unique about the movie is that it starts out basically as just like your typical romance genre film. It even looks not that good. No offense to Justin Baldoni. I thought the directing was one of the worst aspects of this movie.
What?
I thought Blake Lively's performance wasn't terrific for a lot of it. I think she has a lot of like ticks that she does during like scenes that are more casual. Like during the more dramatic scenes, she's pretty good. But earlier in the movie, it's just kind of like, all right, she's kind of acting weird. Because it starts out as this typical romance film, when it becomes a story of domestic abuse, if you aren't ready for that, it kind of feels weird. And it's like, are we romanticizing this? Then that's what a lot of people say about this movie and this book. Is it romanticizing this horrible behavior? I argue that they're thinking too didactically about it. And not to give too much credit to Colleen Hoover, because it is a didactic book. I mean, the message of the story is literally the title. It ends with, I mean, that's like the message. The book doesn't provide super easy answers about the abusive person and what that means and how to keep that person involved in your life or how you can't keep that person involved in your life. And these things are part of human existence, you know? A movie that's your typical rom-com romance. We've got the love triangle. It could have just gone a certain way. We've seen this movie a million times. And then wham, there's just that one little sliver of reality in this fantasy world. And I love that. I thought it worked really well, and I thought they were able to make it like an effective tearjerker. And it had the message, yeah, but also it's literally stirring this conversation. I think there's a reason why it's so popular and it's caused so much controversy, because people are like, what the fuck? Why isn't it this simple thing? Why isn't this thing that I can say yes or no to? It's got this weird, messed up quality to it that makes it unique.
I have to disagree with you in the sense that I do think it romanticizes some aspects that it shouldn't. But I also agree with you in that it does make it less of a black and white. But I want to say a little bit more about that in the spoiler section.
Sure. So overall, I thought like, yeah, there were parts of the movie that just weren't shot very well. Performances I bumped against that were just like, whatever. But when it got going into the story, and I think that this is largely because it's a pretty faithful adaptation of the book. Although I love that they removed the Ellen element, because all of the flashbacks in the book are like her journal diaries writing to Ellen, that, yeah. Which is just like, was so weird in the book and kind of annoying. I love that they had the little Easter egg of she's watching Ellen in one scene in one of the flashbacks. And I was like, okay, yeah, they're going to leave it at that. Very solid adaptation. And I think it's way better than people are giving it credit for. I think people are just, I honestly think people are being a little snobbish about it.
What would you rate it?
I'd give it like a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
I mean, I actually thought it was good. I thought I had a good time.
So why did you not like directing it?
Act like it's the worst thing ever. It just looked like any other movie, just like the coverage. I thought that it could have been more creative with the camera angles, with the compositions. It was just your standard coverage, and it was fine. And honestly, maybe that added to the movie in a way, in that it just looked like any other romance film. And then it gets you this like really like, are we really doing this? Are we really going into this subject right now? You know,
Well, that's what I liked about it. It builds up.
It builds up, and it honestly took its time, like getting you in there. And I think that's why it's such an effective story, and why it presents its case so effectively, is because it does kind of trick you. And I think a lot of audiences are just kind of like, or maybe a lot of critics too are like, I'm smarter than your tricks. You can't trick me. Like, what the hell, you know? And I like getting manipulated. You know, I like a movie that's like a little bit like sneaky.
All right, ready for spoilers?
Yeah, let's get into spoilers. 3, 2, 1, spoilers.
So I actually like the directing because of the fact that it was a little tricky. Like, you don't know if Lily's husband, who becomes Lily's husband, the guy who's abusive,
Ryle.
Yeah, Ryle. He's actually like, the first time he hit her, if it was actually intentional or not. And at the end, there's flashbacks. You get to see like, yeah, he was having an angry outburst. Like, he realized afterwards, like, oh shit, I just hit her, but he was definitely hit her.
I attributed that more to the screenplay than to the direction, because that's more. No,
but it like the directing actually, it could have shown a little bit more black and white in the beginning, but it makes you question a little bit. It's like, was it actually? It gives you a little bit more benefit of the doubt. I think that one thing I really want to speak about is what I was saying is a little unrealistic. Is a lot of times when you leave a partner who's abusive, it actually gets really bad. This one, it was very amicable, and I think that's unrealistic. Also, the guy's sister being so understanding. It's not always like that, you know. A lot of times, families are in denial. So it's just. Yeah. It's not I felt like that was a little too cookie cutter, but that has to probably do with the book. Not saying there aren't situations like that, but I'm just saying I think because it gives a little bit more unrealistic to those situations.
I think also the movie suffers from being like an example of domestic abuse, and it has to like you're saying, like, yeah, it doesn't just depict how it might be, but it doesn't have to be the exemplar of every situation, I guess, in some ways.
Yeah.
And that's kind of too heavy of a burden we're putting on this film.
Maybe, yeah. And I also think that sometimes I just get tired of seeing like domestic violence situations where the victim is not fighting back always, or it's just like, it's very, like, the victim is very, like, non-confrontational. It's, like, a totally portrayed as a victim. Not saying, like, this is a very sensitive topic to talk about. So, and there's an array of experience, and I'm sure this experience matches up with a lot of people. But what I'm trying to say is that a lot of times we're looking for victims who are submissive, who are not fighting back or doing something. And a lot of times it's not always like that. It's not, and that makes it more black and white and less of a gray. And I think it should be more gray. That has nothing to do with the movie itself, because like you said, it was a close adaptation to the book. Mm-hmm. But I just want to like talk about that as a criticism, or just like as observation, is that too often we kind of like have a stereotypical idea of what domestic violence looks like, and this movie has a lot of that stereotypical attitude towards it.
I think, though, to this movie's credit, I think that it's nuanced because it's putting in this romance setting, which usually will romanticize abusive behavior, like for real in the romance genre, and not address it in this way. Mm-hmm. Whereas this movie, romanticizes it in the buildup of like, oh, these are kind of red flags that he's doing. But then you get the sucker punch of, oh, this is real. This is reality. And I think that a lot of times what happens in maybe the romance genre, but also in all movies and TV and stuff, it's so simple that once the abusive partner lays the blow, he's like depicted as a monster. It's more like easier in our brains to go the black and white thing. And I think this movie depicted like the complicated feeling she still has for him. And that's what makes it so much harder. And I think it depicted that really interestingly.
Yeah, I get that. I also think it's sometimes you don't need a person to be like more, like you can romanticize it in your head regardless, because a lot of times you have Stockholm syndrome, and a lot of times because like Lily grew up in a domestic violence attitude, you make a lot of excuses for why you are in the situation that you are in. And there is something to say that like you leave the situation. But what I liked about the scene with her mom, when she asked her mom, why did you stay, is that it was easier to stay than to leave. And I thought that sentence kind of spoke a lot, because a lot of times people get worse when you leave. They threaten you. A lot of people seek restraining order. You know, they stalk you. There's a lot of different scenarios. And I think that was very realistic, even though it was one sentence about that. And I feel like that happens more often than not statistically, you know, and it's just important to acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it deals with such sensitive topics. So I do like this, the love that she has with her first boyfriend, Lily, and
Atlas.
Yep. Atlas, and
I'm
how
such an expert.
You're a great expert. And how I did hear about Ellen DeGeneres, and I that's something that I heard about. I'm like, if I hadn't known that aspect of the book, I would have never thought that that wouldn't have made sense to me. So when you're talking about like there's a little Easter egg for that, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like when she's watching it, there is a little like snippet of a diary where she says, "Dear Ellen," I think.
Well, I'm such an expert. I even caught the Colleen Hoover cameo. Yeah, she was in it. I saw her.
Oh.
She appeared.
When?
In a party scene.
I still can't get over how you don't like the directing.
It's not that I hated it. It just was kind of uncreative. I mean,
yeah.
But that's the majority of like big movies now. Most, movies. I mean, not every movies can be directed like Challengers, I guess, because that takes a certain amount of like.
It's also a different type of script.
Creativity. It's different, but I thought it just even simple stuff, just more cinematic language. A lot of it was just really basic coverage, really long.
That's a little snobbish.
Call me a snob. I don't care. I thought it was a good movie still. I mean, yeah. I just thought it just looked fine. It looked fine. I wanted a little more, I don't know, some more style.
Some more style. Yeah, I get that. I do agree with you that I felt like with Blake Lively, sometimes you watch a film and you're like, I could see no one else play that role but her, and she really immersed herself in that role. I could picture a lot of people play her role.
She was fine, and I think that it got better as it went along, frankly, because early on it felt like there was more improvisation, because they were just like, it was more like meet cute stuff. A lot of laughing and giggling and just like, what did you, whoops, did you, it just was like it just was a little more awkward and clumsy, and I thought that she didn't carry that as well. But yeah, once it got more into like the serious stuff, I thought she was fine. She was fine.
Mm-hmm. I like the sister.
Jenny Slate. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was good. I liked seeing Hassan Minhaj in the movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, Hassan his character was really funny.
Yeah, I liked the guy. Well, I mean,
I used to drive Toyota Camry when we first met.
We literally just stopped driving our Toyota Camry.
Yeah, and I just thought that was funny because, we drive Toyota Camry, so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, any other thoughts?
But I am curious, actually.
Yeah, let us know if you saw this or if you're going to see it.
Yeah, and if anyone has been following the drama, I'm kind of curious about what is going on
get
with
us up to date.
Drama. I guess, and if you agree, is it just kind of like more, internet stuff, or does it actually have merit in it? Let me know.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
And we will talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.